At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never contain such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? As such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine eons ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. Free will is an illusion.
I found the tomb of Sarafan, Kain. How could you profane a priest by turning him into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
The Sarafan were saviors, defending Nazgul from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are open, Kain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Sarafan were noble, altruistic? Oh, don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Redeemer and Destroyer, Pawn and Messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where am I? Is the usual question. In your case, when might be more apt.
Very well, you old snake. If you'd prefer I use my bare hands...
This is completely unexpected. This orb disables our vampire enemies, leaving them helpless and incapacitated. Strangely, it seems to have the same effect on that peculiar weapon of yours. But you must believe me. I mean you no harm.
You can drop the benevolent facade, Mobius. I know who and what you are. I should kill you where you stand.
Perhaps you should, my boy. But you don't.
Are you so certain of that, Mobius?
My role as Time Guardian affords me a certain level of omniscience, Raziel. No, you don't kill me. That honor belongs to your maker, Kain, some 30 years from now.
You two are a pair. You're just as fatalistic as he is.
Death comes for us all, Raziel. It's just a matter of time.
How is it that you know my name? We have never met.
On the contrary, Raziel, I know you very well. And it grieves me to see how cruelly Kain has used you. I knew you when you were one of the Sarafan Brotherhood, Raziel. We were even close.
Oh, please.
Fortunately, you need not love me now to be my ally.
Are we within the stronghold of the Sarafan priesthood?
Yes, but the glorious days of the Sarafan have long since passed, I'm afraid. This is a more cynical and indecorous age. My mercenary army now inhabits this stronghold. We strive to honor the memory of the Sarafan with our own humble crusade.
Is this the vampire Vorador?
Yes, the scourge of the Circle, the most depraved and decadent example of his whole degenerate race. He slaughtered 6 of my fellow Guardians as they cowered defenseless in this room.
And you somehow survived this massacre?
I and 2 others. The Circle was devastated. Only we 3 were spared.
How convenient. You'll forgive me if I don't naively devour every scrap of information you toss me. You have a reputation for deceit.
And who has slandered me so? Your malefactor, Kain? The one who betrayed and destroyed you? Our common enemy? Consider the source before you judge me too harshly. We'll forget about rekindling our old friendship then. But consider an alliance based on our common ground. We both want Kain dead. I can help you do it.
You don't want to meddle in this, old man. I know all about your sordid little schemes, but you're simply out of your depth on this one.
You underestimate me, Raziel. Let me show you. Even now, Kain is lying in wait for you, unaware that I've snatched you out of the time stream and brought you here to me. See how he lingers at the very pillars he is destined to destroy, foolishly confident that he has eluded your grasp.
The pillars are still standing in this time.
Yes, Raziel. They are the embodiment of the divine force which preserves the life of our world. We who serve the pillars maintain their delicate balance, and Kain is destined to be the fulcrum upon which that balance turns. I believe you have already endured the wasteland wrought by his terrible, selfish decision. Kain's very existence is a cancer upon this world. As long as he lives, all of Nosgoth is in peril. You may never again be human, Raziel. But you can re-embrace the essence of your humanity and the nobility of your Sarafan heritage. Go to him, Raziel, and end this. But first, you will need to find your way out of the stronghold, and in this, I'm afraid I cannot help you. My soldiers will not understand your appearance here. They will try to kill you. You needn't fear them, of course. They're no match for you. Try to keep the casualties to a minimum. But do what you have to do. All great movements require a few martyrs.
Throughout the stronghold, I discovered evidence of my former nobility and my life as a Sarafan priest. This was the heritage so foully stolen from me when Kain raided my sacred crypt and defiled me. As I neared the stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step. So this was the tomb of the beloved King William the Just, beatified here as the martyr and catalyst of Mobius's crusade. I was reminded of Kain's journey as a fledgling vampire, how Mobius coerced him to travel back in history and assassinate William, thus igniting a genocidal hatred of vampires among the citizens of Nosgoth. And here I discovered the source of the displacement. The Soul Reaver itself, laid out like a holy relic, and broken, apparently in the battle between William and Kain. I had not thought such a thing was possible, until, of course, Kain shattered the blade against me when he tried to strike me down. Thus, the captive spirit inhabiting the Reaver was released, and binding itself to me, became my symbiotic weapon. And so the Reaver met its former self, still imprisoned in this corporeal shell. I watched, mesmerized, as the Wraith blade uncoiled itself and snaked down the length of the physical blade. Embracing its twin, its mirror self, the Reaver's long-dormant spirit was now fully aroused. And for the first time, I felt the true presence of this other entity, willful, ravenous, and deranged from thousands of years of imprisonment. The Reaver was now in command, and I, now merely its helpless host, felt my soul being leached to restore the blade. But the Reaver knew better than to destroy its host, and just as I neared the brink of oblivion, the blade released its hold on me. As I recovered, I realized we were now bound together in a fragile alliance. The Reaver no longer merely my symbiotic weapon, but a sentient parasite competing for control. What have you done to me, Mobius? Is this your trap?
How mine? Don't forget it was Kain who led you here, not I. While you curse me, the only soul in Nosgoth ready to guide and assist you, Kain laughs at our folly and revels in your dismay.
These blades, now coiled in sinister embrace, have inspired terror in the hearts of creatures far more durable than you, old man. Bound together as they are, I can only imagine what they could do to your soul's fragile shell.
Raziel, I beg you to stay your hand. This was none of my doing. I have sought only to aid you in your righteous quest.
Why, you're trembling, Mobius. Has your confidence abandoned you? You seem to have made a fatal error by leaving your precious staff behind. Is that where all your courage comes from?
Listen to me, Raziel. You don't know what you're doing. I have taken an enormous risk by appearing here before you, so defenseless, yet eager to prove my good intentions. If there's anything left of the Seraphim in you, you won't do this. While you threaten me, your true enemy eludes you.
Don't concern yourself with Kain, old man. He'll join you in hell soon enough. As you said, death comes for us all.
Yes, the wheel of fate demands it.
What did you say?
The wheel of fate. The inexorable cycle of death and rebirth to which all men are compelled. We serve the same God, Raziel. To strike me down would be striking God's own attendant. And I don't believe even you would take that risk.
I tire of your games, Mobius. Now that I know you fear me, I needn't concern myself with you. Kain is waiting for me.
Go then, Raziel. Seek Kain out and destroy him in the name of the one God we both serve. You, who were once a Seraphim priest, murdered, profaned, destroyed, and reborn again from his mercy. You are now most powerfully equipped to be his agent, his instrument of restoration and retribution.
My own vengeance is motivation enough.
By my soul, you almost had me, my little blue assassin. But that'll be the one and only chance you get. I assure you of that.
I could now summon the blade at will, regardless of my strength. But once summoned, the blade's ravenous appetite could not be contained. It devoured the souls of its victims, and if I allowed it to become over-aroused, the Reaver would now turn its hunger on me. So this was the legendary Janos Audron, reputed to have been the most ancient and diabolical vampire to have ever existed. According to folklore, he lived high in the cliffs of Nosgoth's northern mountains and preyed mercilessly on the defenseless villagers below. His reign of terror ended when the Sarafan finally hunted him down and tore his throbbing heart from his still-living body. This relic came to be known as the Heart of Darkness, and was supposedly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife. The Sarafan therefore guarded it carefully, lest the heart fall into the hands of their enemies. But I wondered, could Janos Audron truly have been as monstrous as depicted here? Or was this merely artistic license by the Sarafan, who sought to lionize themselves by demonizing their darkest enemy? Strange how my history came full circle. This chapel, I realized, was a memorial to my former Sarafan brethren and myself. All of us martyred here, and then so cruelly profaned by Kain when he imposed his gift on our noble corpses. For the first time, I beheld the image of my Sarafan self, memorialized here among my fallen comrades. It tortured me to see how noble and pure I had been, and what a vile phantasm I had become. And a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it. All I wanted at this moment was to find Kain and destroy him. These vampires had nothing in common with the deranged jackals I left behind in Kain's derelict empire. They seemed to retain much of their former humanity. In this era, vampires were clearly not the uncontested predators we had been. These creatures were hunted mercilessly and oppressed. And while I still believed that vampirism was a plague and had to be wiped out, there was nothing noble or righteous in this crusade. This was simply ruthless persecution. The pillars of Nosgoth, pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight. And there, waiting at the very heart of the pillars, was the canker that was destined to destroy them.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to you, Kain, though I might have guessed you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal. and balance will thus be restored to Nosgoth.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I.
Face me, Kain. Even you shouldn't die a coward's death.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned a final request?
I recall no such courtesy from you.
Indulge me, Raziel. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgoth is betrayed. In this instant, Ariel, the Balance Guardian, is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the Pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these Pillars.
Bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
At the moment of my first cry, Ariel's beloved, the Guardian Nupraptor, finds her corpse. Racked with grief and tormented by suspicions of treachery, Nupraptor plunges into a madness which overflows and infects all of the Guardians who are symbiotically bound, including me. The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me.
Shall I show you the same mercy you showed the rest of the circle, then? You blithely murdered them to restore their pillars, yet your hand faltered when it came to the final sacrifice. What makes you exempt, Kain? You're merely the last man standing. Why condemn me for simply carrying out what you hadn't the courage to do yourself?
Let's drop the moral posturing, shall we? We both know there's no altruism in this pursuit. Your reckless indignation led you here. I counted on it. There's no shame in it, Raziel. Revenge is motivation enough. At least it's honest. Hate me, but do it honestly. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the pillars. But as the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, the game is rigged.
We agree, then, that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new Guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.
From the look of it, this door had been sealed for centuries. I began to realize it was no mere coincidence that I found myself standing here, beneath this winged figure with blue skin and cloven hands so like my own, and bearing this unique key. As I entered the chamber, I sensed that it had been sealed for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. And while this room was clearly built when the pillars were erected, I knew that no human hand could have shaped this place, and that perhaps it had never been seen by human eyes. The surrounding murals depicted a winged race, their features so like my own, but beautiful, where mine were grotesque, and angelic, while mine were demonic. I tried to decipher these images. A great war, but with combatants like none I had ever seen. The pillars, raised by this winged race, who thus defeated their adversaries. The winged beings again, writhing in agony, apparently afflicted with the same bloodthirst I had so recently suffered. And throughout the chamber, inscribed everywhere, images of the Reaver itself. Was this what Kain had urged me to discover? I wondered.
Lies, Raziel. Do not be deceived.
Ah, my ancient benefactor. And I dared to hope we had parted ways forever. The silence was refreshing when it lasted. No doubt you have a conveniently inexpressible reason for your presence here.
Do not be insolent, Raziel. I am eternally present here and everywhere, now and always. I am the still center of the turning wheel, the hub of this world's destiny.
But perhaps not so omnipotent as you'd have me believe. Your hold on me appears to be tenuous. I no longer seem to need you. Yet I'm guessing you still need me.
This impudence is unworthy of you, Raziel. Do not forget that you have a task to fulfill here. You are indebted to me.
Indebted? You would have me show gratitude for a gift I didn't ask to be bestowed. Do you forget that you forced me to inhabit this vile carcass?
I restored you to yourself, Raziel. It was Kain who destroyed you. The very enemy you've just let slip through your grasp. Do not fail me, my servant.
I serve no one. Not you, not Kain, and not your lackey Mobius.
Mobius is my good servant. I have many.
And if I tell Mobius that he's worshipping a giant squid, do you think his faith will falter?
You have grown willful, Raziel. But beware. To embrace a serpent is to invite poison into your heart. Kain is a sinuous beast. He will seduce and deceive you. You pride yourself on your free will, yet you let that degenerate deter your resolve.
I harbor no illusions about his integrity, nor anyone else's. In fact, I am beset by manipulation on all sides. I merely seek the truth.
These are the fathomless truths, Raziel. The agony of birth and death and rebirth. This is the wheel of fate, the purifying cycle which sustains all life. Vampires are an abomination, a plague which leeches this land of its spiritual strength. They obstruct the flow of life and death. Their souls stagnate in their wretched corpses. But the wheel must turn. Death is inexorable and cannot be denied. Your destiny is irresistible, Raziel. You are my Soul Reaver, the scourge of the vampires, reaper of their apostate souls. Remain steadfast, end the vampire's parasitic curse, and restore Nosgoth. Kain's blood belongs on your hands.
Kain indeed deserves to die for condemning me to this repugnant form, but if and when I kill him, it will be for me alone to decide.
Kain destroyed you without a flicker of remorse. He tore the soul from your noble corpse, and after you had served him faithfully for 1,000 years, he discarded you in the abyss on a jealous whim. Remember your rage, Raziel. Let it guide your hand.
So, my lurking observer was exposed. The creature vanished when he realized he was discovered, but I caught a glimpse of him, and his features were distinctive enough. This was the vampire Vorador, the monstrous assassin depicted in the stronghold. Strange that a creature brazen enough to assault the Circle single-handedly would avoid confronting me. Very well. If Vorador would not come to me, I would go to him. But first, I needed to find some means of reaching that terrace. As I neared the altar, I suddenly felt the Reaver quickening of its own volition. Just as in William's chapel, the balance of power tangibly shifted. Voracious and willful, the Soul Reaver was now in control, and I, merely its helpless puppet. The Reaver plunged itself into that mysterious altar, and devouring the energy that emanated from within, drained this place of its power. Thus sated, the Reaver released me, and I realized as I recovered control that these ancient shrines were forges, each purpose-built to enhance the Reaver with elemental power. Now I understood the purpose of the mysterious basins I had seen throughout my journey. They were elemental fonts, each attuned to a fundamental essence. When I forged the blade, every font in Nosgoth with the same elemental attunement was simultaneously quickened. The Reaver's enhancements were never permanent, but these fonts enabled me to re-imbue the blade by bathing it in the elemental energy distilled therein.
You're a ragged excuse for a savior.
Vorador.
I see my reputation precedes me.
It does.
All good, I hope? I've been watching you since you emerged from that accursed stronghold. Strange that your arrival coincides with the corruption of the Pillars. But I'm wondering, are you the catalyst of these events? Or the answer to them?
I don't know what you mean.
I will speak plainly then. I distrust your origin, stranger. Seeing you crawl from the putrid depths of Mobius's keep makes me question your purpose here. And what should I make of your appearance? Not human, clearly, and more demon than vampire. And the Pillars. It is no mere coincidence that your arrival in that clearing heralded the Pillars' decay. And so I ask you plainly, are you the instrument of the Pillars' destruction, or their salvation?
Neither.
Very well. Let us look at the other side of the coin. I have followed your journey and watched as you blithely unlocked secrets that have been sealed and forbidden for thousands of years. The path you have been treading is open to only one being. You don't know what you are, do you?
I have been many things. If you find me ignorant, enlighten me.
What's the point? This world is beyond redemption. Let the human cattle have it.
I would expect better than meek capitulation from you.
Centuries of persecution have taught me well. 500 years ago, our race was nearly exterminated by the fanatical crusades of the Seraphan. And now the same sick drama unfolds again. In merely a decade, Mobius's cutthroat citizen army has nearly accomplished what the Seraphan could not. Vampires meddling in the affairs of men. Look where it's brought us.
What am I to make of these secrets I've uncovered, then? The depictions of the winged race, the pillars, and the Reaver.
Fairy tales, boy. The delusions of an ancient culture clinging to hope long after the world had discarded them. Their bloodline trickled away, until only one of the ancients remained, sustained solely by obligation and his unfaltering faith in the old prophecies. But you see, even if you are who you appear to be, it no longer matters. You're simply too late. Janos Audron, the Reaver Guardian, the last of the ancients, and my maker, was murdered by the Seraphan nearly 5 centuries ago. He alone would have the answers you seek, but his secrets died with him. I don't know how you've come even this far without his guidance, or without the Reaver, stolen these 500 years ago by the Seraphan. I'm afraid, my friend, that you and all of us are out of luck.
I had no less reason to trust Vorador than anyone else I had met. In fact, the ancient vampire was the most forthright being I had encountered thus far. If Janos Audron was the key to all this, then I would find him.
Ah, my wayward child returns.
Having unearthed more than you'd like, I suspect. What am I to make of these ruins that litter the land, and these images here in this chamber?
Merely the deceits of a failed civilization. You are being misled, Raziel. This ancient race hoped to manipulate the future with these scrawled misdirections. You must tread carefully. There are dark forces at work in this world, bent on subverting your true destiny.
I have no doubt of that. The question is, am I in their presence right now?
Your arrogance will spell your demise, Raziel. Deny my will, and the arc of your destiny will reach a sudden conclusion.
Your threats are unmoving. Even now, I'm beyond your reach.
My reach is longer than you realize. This is a very dangerous game you're playing, Raziel.
I plunged the Reaver into the forge and imbued the blade with the elemental power of light. Thus armed, I now had the means to re-enter the stronghold and finally use Mobius's time-streaming device to accomplish my own ends. Show yourself, Kain.
Here, Raziel. Everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture, and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must, if Nosgoth is to be dragged from the wreckage of its damnation.
I understand only this, Kain. That you and Mobius have impelled me to this moment simply means I can trust neither of you. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it no longer matters, because I'm cutting them. I set my own course from here.
If it were only that simple.
Your fatalism is tiresome, Kain.
And profoundly ingrained, Raziel. You
You must understand, our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. History is irredeemable. Drop a stone into a rushing river. The current simply courses around it and flows on as if the obstruction were never there. You and I are pebbles, Raziel, and have even less hope of disrupting the time stream. The continuum of history is simply too strong, too resilient. Except, then how do we explain William here? The beloved boy king turned tyrant. In my youth, I witnessed William's rise to power and his transformation into the nemesis who laid waste to Nosgoth. Keep your distance, Kain. Years later, I stumble upon a chance to journey back in history, unaware that the entire affair has been carefully orchestrated by Mobius. In my wisdom, I seize this opportunity to murder the young king before he can ravage Nosgoth, and thereby provide the catalyst Mobius needs to ignite a genocidal war against our race.
I warn you, no further.
This one reckless act unravels the skein of history. The nemesis never becomes the nemesis. William dies a martyred saint. I, the vampire assassin, become the author of my own species' extinction, and Mobius profits from it all. I destroyed a tyrant only to create one far worse. But how can it be so? How, if history is immutable? The answer is here in this room, Raziel. Mobius propelled William and me together, but ensured first that we were both armed with the Soul Reaver. The Reaver is the key. Two incarnations of the blade meet in time and space. A paradox is created, a temporal distortion powerful enough to derail history.
Is this your sorcery?
Not mine, Raziel. Yours. You have nothing to fear from me, Raziel. You hold all the cards.
Then perhaps I should test your sincerity. If what you say is true, you should be terrified. I could kill you here and now.
And so you do, Raziel.
What's happening?
We're hurtling towards our destinies, Raziel. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. If you truly believe in free will, Raziel, now is the time to prove it. Kill me now, and we both become pawns of history, dragged down the path of an artificial destiny. I was ordained to assume the role of Balance Guardian in Nosgoth, while you were destined to be its savior. But the map of my fate was redrawn by Mobius, and so in turn was yours.
This is madness!
Fight it, Raziel. This moment does not have to be an ending. It can become a prelude. I can't. You can, Raziel. Look inside and see that it is so. You have the power to reshape our inevitable futures. Poor William.
What is this?
History abhors a paradox, Raziel. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself, finding its old course blocked by your refusal to destroy me. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves, Raziel, and reclaim our intended destinies. It may yet be possible for me to assume my role as Balance Guardian and return the pillars to their rightful inheritors.
To the vampires. And this is the destiny you have urged me to discover. I don't know what game you and Mobius are playing, Kain, but I refuse to be your pawn. Unlike you, I still revere whatever shred of humanity I've managed to preserve. You will not use me as the instrument of your messianic delusions.
Very well, Raziel. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone.
Humble words for one who presumes to teach me a lesson at every turn.
Then continue your journey and learn your own lessons, Raziel. Remember, Mobius led you here, but you walk away unfettered. A champion of free will and conqueror of false histories. There is much more for you to unearth, if you have the heart for the truth and the will to see it.
Ah, yes. I like that look on your face, Mobius. You really don't know what to do now, do you, old man? Here you are, caught without your damned staff, and I suspect things aren't progressing quite as you'd hoped. You're not used to the fly turning to confront you in your web, are you?
Kain's devious influence has poisoned your mind, Raziel. Now you see betrayal everywhere, even in your closest allies.
We were never allies, Mobius. Conspirators, perhaps. Briefly.
Why did you not kill Kain when you had the chance? He was at your mercy.
Precisely. I had a choice, and I chose mercy. And now I know your sordid little secret. The significance of that displacement I felt when the two Reavers came together. Strangely enough, I was enlightened by the devious Kain, not by you. In fact, I've learned much more than you counted on. I understand now how you've tried to manipulate all of history for your own personal gain. But now all your little schemes are whirling in ruin around you, aren't they? All because I chose to exert my will for once, rather than obey the demands of sorcerers and spirits and demons, all singing the same tiresome refrain, "Kill Kain." I'm setting my own path from here, Mobius. I intend to discover the truth behind all of this.
But you condemn us all with this impetuous act.
Hardly impetuous. It took all the will I could muster. Has my refusal to kill Kain reshuffled your carefully stacked deck of cards?
You really think that you're exercising your free will, Raziel? You're simply Kain's servant.
I do not serve Kain. I merely did not kill him.
Raziel, do not forget your purpose here. You are destined to be the savior of Nosgoth.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. As for saving Nosgoth, so far I see precious little reason to bother. And I'll choose my own purpose from here on out, Time Streamer. Right now, I choose to manipulate you for a change. Go. In there.
What are you doing?
Come, Mobius. You're a cunning serpent. You'll piece it together, I imagine. This era is of no further use to me. You will operate this device to provide me passage. I want to see the world in a simpler time, before the Sarafan began their crusade.
And what about Kain? You're leaving your core behind.
You kill him if it's so damned important.
You need only touch the two poles of the switch, and the device will transport you. But I urge you to reconsider.
You've lost your powers of persuasion, old man. Rot here and forget me. Even as I emerged from that infernal time-streaming chamber, I suspected treachery. The stronghold was vacant, derelict, and abandoned. If I had any doubts about the era I now occupied, this grotesque tableau certainly eliminated them. For here was Mobius, long since murdered by Kain, lionized and beatified as the martyred leader of his bloodthirsty crusade. And if I required further evidence, I needed only to behold the gruesome trophy Mobius held aloft. A severed head of Vorador. The final triumphant kill of Mobius's cutthroat mob. His execution marked the annihilation of the vampires. Far from channeling me into Nosgoth's past, Mobius had propelled me over a century into its ghastly future. The intent behind this little detour was unmistakable. Having failed to make me his obedient assassin, Mobius intended to keep me ignorant of my true destiny, which clearly lay in Nosgoth's past. While his deception only reinforced my purpose, Mobius had effectively stranded me here. This left me no course but to explore the era I now occupied and see what changes the century had wrought, following Kain's ill-fated decision. Perhaps time had cleared a path for me into the mountains, where I might unearth more clues behind the mystery of Janos Audron.
Raziel.
What pathetic charade is this now, Mobius?
No charade, Raziel. Only the entreaties of this martyred spirit.
Your pleas mean nothing to me after all your deceit. You have propelled me into Nosgoth's future, Mobius, and left me stranded here.
I am truly sorry, Raziel, but it was necessary. Consider it the last valiant act of a doomed man. You have strayed from your purpose, and now behold the result. Gaze upon the wasteland you and Kain authored together.
I fail to see how I'm responsible.
You spared Kain, and by doing so, you have released a multitude of horrors upon this world. I can accept that Kain has murdered me, Raziel. As the Time Guardian, I foresaw that incident long before it occurred, and I take some small comfort in the fact that Kain remains the sole survivor of his vile breed. But you have single-handedly made my sacrifice meaningless.
Your argument is disingenuous, Time Streamer. I cannot see how killing or sparing Kain's future self would alter these events. This wasteland was created by Kain's original refusal at the Pillars. And amidst all these twists and turns, that event has never changed. You are cunning, Mobius. But I think you've gotten tangled in your own web.
As Kain clings to his precious seat of power, the pillars sink into a mire of decay, dragging all of Nosgoth down with them.
I don't think this has anything to do with the Pillars, or Kain's failure to sacrifice himself. I think you're simply afraid, because you don't know what he's up to. He's a wild card, isn't he? And you don't want his influence in your game. Which is why you wanted me to eliminate him. Well, now that he survived, you have no idea what's coming, do you? Maybe, for the first time in your entire life, you're terrified that he may have truly found a third option out of the dilemma you orchestrated for him.
Kain's lies have addled your mind. Leave this place and trouble my spirit no more.
If you even are a spirit, you've forgotten. I have a way to tell for sure. If you're willing to risk it. I didn't think so. Either way, you lose. These were the pillars so familiar to my blighted eyes. But now that I had begun to learn their true significance, I regarded the pillars' destruction with a new, enlightened sense of horror. And I questioned now whether Kain's simple refusal, his mere ambition, could truly have caused such devastation. I felt that some darker influence was at work here. As I approached, I discerned the spirit of Ariel, bound here now for more than a century.
Forever am I bound, hope abandoned, my spirit tethered to this place. What destroyed the circle could not touch me, for I was newly dead and beyond harm's reach. I alone was spared the descent into madness, and Kain alone was spared the pain of death. When Napraptor's poison seized Kain even in the safety of the womb, much more than just his destiny was lost. All of Nosgoth lost balance. Consider us now, both of us less than we once were. I, pure but insubstantial, and Kain, terribly real, but corrupted.
Your imprisonment here has deranged you, spirit. You fixate on Kain because you believe he is the tether that binds you here. But we both know he is not the author of your agony. The pillars were subverted by dark forces, invited by the Guardians themselves. The more I learn of your circle, the more I see a tangle of nested manipulations.
Kain handed them their victory. They sought to topple the pillars, and he was their willing instrument.
Or was he their unwilling pawn? Would it blunt your wrath to know that Kain's dilemma was calculated to bring the pillars down, regardless of the choice he made? And that the devastation would have been even greater had he chosen the path you would prescribe for him?
You are a subtle, deceitful creature. But your clever arguments do not absolve Kain. He must die for the pillars to be restored. There is no other way.
Then consider this more ominous possibility. What if Kain's death does not restore the pillars? Consider that it may simply be too late, that this world may be beyond redemption, and that you may be bound here eternally.
Why do you hound me, demon? You can see that I am captive here. Show me some mercy.
Like the mercy you showed your fellow Guardians when you set Kain on them? Or the mercy you showed Kain when you kept him ignorant of his destiny while you used him as the scourge of the Circle? Or perhaps like the mercy you showed your beloved Napraptor when you made him Kain's first kill?
You are cruel. Why do you torment me?
I'm merely looking for answers, Ariel. Very well. I'll leave you in peace. But know this about you and this purgatory from which you long to escape. You're merely at the threshold.